Hello, Cub Nation. Thank you for joining us. Today we are joined by Dr. John Vella, who is the chairperson for the English department. John, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks for inviting me here.
If you want to get started just by talking about how long you've been at Loyola, how long you've been the chairperson, and what subjects you teach.
Yeah, so I've been at Loyola now. This is my 12th year. This is my second stint at Loyola. I was an alum, so I graduated about 25 years ago. In my 12 years here as teacher, I have taught all 4 grade levels. I currently teach English 1 and I teach AP English Literature 4 for our seniors.
Great.
So freshmen and seniors.
All right. So writing is a critical piece across all subject levels. Can you talk a little bit about how the English department addresses all these different styles of writing?
Sure. So writing instruction, as you said, is at the center of what we do in the English department. It's also part of what we do in terms of the whole curriculum. We have the writing across the curriculum model here. So the English department is kind of the center for that writing, but it happens all across the curriculum. We start early on with freshmen, teaching them the basics of paragraphs. Freshmen can expect to write numerous single paragraph essays over the course of a year. We will introduce them to different styles. They'll try persuasive writing, expository writing. They'll work on very specific kinds of models like compare and contrast models or cause and effect models of writing. And even with our freshmen, we start right away with them using evidence from sources and teaching them how to cite and quote and paraphrase properly. So we're teaching them the basic standards of academic scholarship, academic integrity. And the way it really develops from freshman year to senior year is that we not only add length to the essays, so we move from 1 paragraph to 3 to 5 to, by senior year, 8 to 10 page papers, but we really start to develop the research angle. And that really starts in earnest sophomore year, where all sophomores will have to do a significant research paper. And that's a component of every year from sophomore year on. Sophomore year, junior year, senior year, all have a significant research paper. And those papers will involve both primary sources of evidence, like the novel or play they're writing about, and secondary sources. So commentary, history, sociological studies that they might incorporate into their work. So that's our general overview of the writing styles we try to teach and the basic sequence for that writing that students would experience over the 4 years.
That's great. Yeah, very comprehensive. So, there are so many great books, great authors, great genres that you can follow. How does the English department decide which to choose?
Yeah, so our freshman year is an introduction to all the genres. So students will read a play, they'll read a novel, they'll read short fiction, poetry, nonfiction. And, we tend to, I think, have a really good mix of classical works, so works that students from a liberal arts school should be expected to have command of, but also very contemporary works. Our summer reading includes some young adult literature. When I teach nonfiction, I tend to teach very contemporary journalism, whether it's from The Economist or the New York Times, or so students are getting familiar with writing and discourse as it exists in their world today. So freshman year, we tend to pick from across the board. Sophomore year is American literature, and we try to pick a mix of, again, classical works that you would expect to know from the canon, along with more contemporary works. So that can mean everything from reading your Nathaniel Hawthorne and Edgar Allan Poe to reading 20th century stuff by Flannery O'Connor or Kurt Vonnegut. Right? So junior year is British literature. So again, you have that same attempt to balance classical, canonical works with more modern contemporary works. And then senior year is a different year because we have so many different options. But I think in general, to your question, we really want our students to feel versed in the Western classical tradition, but also comfortable enough with contemporary writing that they feel like they can pick up something by a living or recent author and feel like they're part of the cultural conversation. We want to make sure they understand that literature is not, and the study of literature and writing is not something that happened, in generations before, it's still ongoing. And we're part of a cultural conversation right now. So we want to make sure that they feel comfortable picking up contemporary works and that they know how to approach them and read them.
Right. Okay, and you mentioned summer reading.
Mhm.
Are there summer reading requirements?
Yes, there are, for all 4 years. And there's 2 ways to satisfy the summer reading requirement for each of the 4 years. Students can either take the summer school class here at Loyola's summer session, which is a 5-week class, or they can read the books on their own and take the test when they return to school in the fall. Either way, whether they take the test for the summer school class, their score on the summer reading will count as their first exam grade for the semester, okay? We provide study guides online for students. They can get them from our website starting in early June, and that gives them an indication of how they should be reading the books and how to prepare for the exam. And what we really value in the summer reading is we value the summer reading as a way, first of all, to keep students active and engaged with their reading skills over the summer, but also as a way to further the literary sequence that we're undergoing during the regular school year. So, for example, one of the culminating books of freshman year is Catcher in the Rye, which is a coming-of-age novel. Mm-hmm. So one thing we do for the summer reading is the summer reading before freshman year has a coming-of-age novel to kind of help them prepare for Catcher in the Rye. And then summer reading after freshman year, going into sophomore year, also has a coming-of-age novel to kind of help them solidify what they've learned about these coming-of-age novels and maybe see other ways of those novels being approached. So likewise with sophomore year summer reading, it's an attempt to get you ready for American literature. Mm-hmm. Junior year is an attempt to get you ready for British literature, and so on. So we really try to make sure that it's well integrated with the 9-month calendar. Mm-hmm. So that students don't feel like they're doing something totally different, but something that's really connected to their classwork and will help them with their classwork. Yeah. Now, of course, we always encourage students to do additional summer reading, just things that they're interested in, but those are our requirements.
Yeah, seems like a great bridge. Now, if you can walk us through just the sequence of courses students are in or taking. I know it gets more complicated in junior and senior year, but maybe just the first steps to the English department.
Sure. So one thing that we're very proud of here, and I think is very distinctive of Loyola, is that our freshman English 1 class is not an honors class. There's no honors distinction. All of our 300 plus freshmen are thrown into the same pool of English 1 students. We think that's a real virtue. We have students coming from so many different feeder schools, grammar schools with different levels of preparation. Our plan is to make sure that all freshmen receive the same foundation to help them for the next several years of work. So wherever you're coming from, you can expect a common freshman year English 1 experience, okay? It's after English 1 that we now have, let's call them 2 tracks that students will go on. We have the Honors AP track, and then we have our core track. The content for both the Honors AP track and the core track is very similar. Sophomore year, it's going to be American Lit, junior year, British Lit. So that isn't the difference. The difference really is in the level of rigor, the expectations both in reading and writing, and the weekly coursework expectations. So about a third of our students will take Honors English 2, starting as sophomores. So of our classes of 320 or so, we usually get 100 to 120 for English 2 honors. And most of those students will stay on that path for their full 4 years. They'll go from Honors English 2, AP English Language 3, AP English Literature 4. So that's one sequence that students can get on at sophomore year and stick with. For the students who go core English, they'll go from English 1 to English 2, American Lit, research paper required, then from English 2 to English 3, and which will be British literature. And then from English 3, they now have a couple different options. So for our English 3 students, we've developed in the last few years a new AP opportunity for seniors only that is AP English Language 4 for our seniors. We have about 50 students take that a year. And it gives a number of our students who haven't had honors or or AP English yet the opportunity to round out their transcript with an AP English course. If seniors opt instead to not take that AP4 option, they would go into our one semester electives as a senior. And there we try to structure the department more like a college English department, where you have a one semester course on the modern American novel, one semester course on Shakespeare, African American poetry. We have rhetoric and composition. I'm trying to think what else we've got on the docket. I think that rounds it out. Oh, short fiction, short fiction. So students can really elect, based on their own interests, what they'd like to further pursue. And the nice thing about that option too is that you get 2 different classes in your senior year. So you might get short fiction with one teacher, but Shakespeare with another, or African American poetry with one teacher, and then modern American novel with another. So students really like having those options in senior year.
Great. And what are Loyola's requirements for graduation?
8 semesters of English. So every semester you're enrolled as a student at Loyola, you will take an English class.
Okay. All right. Well, great. Dr. Vella, thank you for joining us here. Again, my name is Rob Gore. If you want updates or announcements, you should visit the Loyola webpage at loyolahs.edu. For more immediate updates, you can follow me on Twitter at Loyola Academics.